afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Share Screen Africa session, a very exciting one today. We are going to look at the penguins, and we have a list of extremely well-versed researchers speaking. And first up, we have Dr. Alison Kock, who is from Sandparks, and she's going to take us on a bit of an outdoor excursion with her videos. And with that, I'm going to give over to you, Alison. With some questions that I've written down. So I don't know if you want to do a quick introduction before we start.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. It's really fantastic to talk to you about African penguins on World Penguin Day. And, one of the first questions we get asked is, when was Boulders established? And Boulders and the Simonstown Penguin Colony is a unique colony. It's been there for about 40 years. So it was established in 1983 only. So it's much younger than most of the island colonies that have been around for hundreds of years. And it's one of only 2 land-based colonies.
Doc, do you think that Boulders Beach is an ideal place for the penguin colony, and why?
Well, that's a yes and a no answer. It can be ideal. It's next to a marine protected area and in a bay called False Bay where there's no small pelagic fishing allowed. So the access to food at Boulders is really good compared to some of the other colonies. But no, in the sense that because it's one of only 2 land-based colonies, not only does it face threats from predators like Cape fur seals and sharks, but also has land-based predators like caracals, leopards, genets, mongoose, and even domestic animals such as dogs and cats. So the land-based colonies really have some unique challenges that penguins have to face. And again, the Boulders colony is quite unique in that it's distributed across protected and non-protected land. So the colony is in Sandparks managed land, on City of Cape Town managed land. It's across naval land and private residences as well. And that means that there's a lot of stakeholders when it comes to managing this penguin colony on land.
Okay, I can believe that. So how many birds then do make up the colony?
So Boulders is one of the few colonies that are stable. We have last year, the annual census counted 845 breeding pairs. So when we actually count penguins, we count the breeding pairs and not individual penguins because it's easier to count because they're nesting. But then we use a calculation of 3.2 to multiply the breeding pairs to get the population estimate, which is then around 2,700 penguins in the colony.
Sure. Okay. And I'm guessing the breed is because they are monogamous, right?
Yes, yeah. Penguins are monogamous, so they will mate for life unless one of the partners is killed. Then they will find another mate.
Oh, okay. It's really cute. But the population that you're speaking about, has the size changed over time?
So for Boulders particularly, it has increased over time from when it started in the early 1980s. And then it's stabilized over the last few years. And like I mentioned, it's one of the only colonies with a stable population, unlike the remaining colonies that are on islands where there's been these steep declines in the penguin population. And, we went from over 1 million breeding pairs in the earlier century to less than 10,000 breeding pairs in South Africa and Namibia today.
Sure. So something that I remember learning as a zoology student, like those that's sitting from the University of the Free State today, is that in nature you either get eaten, eat, and you breed. So you spoke about the challenges that they face, but what about what they eat? Is there enough food for these penguins?
So again, for Boulders, we think it's one of the reasons the colony is stable at Boulders is because they get enough food in False Bay. False Bay has been closed to small pelagic fishing, which fishes for sardine and anchovy, which is their preferred prey and their main prey, has been closed for several decades. So there's no competition for food in False Bay between penguins and small pelagic fisheries. So yeah, so in False Bay, we think that this has contributed to the population being stable. However, unfortunately, for the bigger population, this is not the case. There is a food scarcity for the bigger population on the islands.
So then on that, like you spoke about monogamy and the growing population, and so how many chicks do then raise per year, per nest, or over their lifetime?
Yeah, normally they lay one clutch, and a clutch has normally got 2 eggs. And so normally they'll lay one clutch, but if there is a lot of food around, they can lay up to 2 clutches in a year. But it really depends on how much food is around. The incubation of these eggs takes about 40 days. And of course, if they lose an egg to a predator or because the egg is overheated, they can lay again, provided that there's enough food and the environment is good to support them for that.
So then the nest boxes, I've seen you've chosen nest boxes. Why have you chosen to use these?
Yes, again, Boulders is a really interesting colony because there has never been any thick layers of guano. So, guano is the excrement from the penguins and other seabirds. And on the islands, these guano layers used to build up very, very high, and the penguins would burrow into the guano and make their nests. So that hasn't, that's not available on Boulders. So they build their nests into the sand, or they go into the vegetation, the bushes, and they make their natural nests using the available resources in the area. But in some cases, we've tried to make the breeding habitat more suitable. So we've put these artificial nest boxes, and these artificial nest boxes have been designed to keep them safe from predators, to keep the eggs cool, and generally provide some sort of protection during, the egg phase and the chick phase for the penguins. So in Boulders, you'll see different kinds of artificial nests, and this is because scientists have been testing, which nest performs best. So we've got a variety of designs at Boulders, and we actually do research that investigates, which nests are best for the breeding penguins.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Doc Andy, we'll chat later, but I know the two of us worked on bat guano in
Okay.
the past. That is the lecturer at the University of the Free State. So we understand that penguin guano is important for their nesting, like you just said, but is it still harvested then afterwards for human use?
So it used to be harvested. This guano is incredibly rich in nitrates and ammoniums, and so the agriculture industry really, valued this guano, and it used to be collected from the islands. So you would have people going to the islands and scraping the guano off and using it for farming. And it used to be called white gold. It was so valuable. And but luckily nowadays it's illegal to harvest this guano from the seabird colonies, so it doesn't happen anymore. And but it will take hundreds and thousands of years probably to build that guano up to the levels that it used to be.
So, like on that and on the human influence, how SANParks balance conservation with tourism?
Yeah, tourism offers this rare opportunity for people to see these magnificent birds in their natural environment. And it also provides jobs and generates an income to support conservation actions. But of course, people can also disturb penguins. So we really need to try and limit and manage that disturbance as best as possible. And we do that in several ways. We have areas called penguin sanctuaries at the colony where no people are allowed, and we don't even have our rangers or scientists in those areas. And we also have boardwalks around the colony to keep the habitat safe from trampling, but also keep people separate from birds. And then we also have sandparks and City of Cape Town and Sandkop penguin rangers that patrol the area regularly and, try and make sure that people aren't harassing penguins and are respecting penguins. And we do ask visitors to keep at least 3 meters away from penguins when they do encounter them in these open spaces. And we try and, remind people that it's a real privilege to be able to see these penguins in the wild, and that they really respect them and keep their distance.
All right, thank you, Dr. Alison. Just one more question that I just want to ask you as well. I know we've worked with penguins, this is about 10 years ago, but not one. Just elaborate on that, or I could, because I had to wear a really thick armband, and the jeans that I wore that day, I've never worn it again. So I'm emphasizing on the strategy where they bite. And yeah, they
Yes, if you work with penguins, you got to be prepared that you are going to be picked by that very sharp beak of theirs. And so whenever the penguin rangers and the scientists are handling the birds, we normally have knee pads on and gloves on, but even then they will find an open space on your arm or your leg to give you a nice nip. And that's another reason we tell people not to approach penguins, because they can give you a nasty nip. So good for them.
Good for them. And also, I remember we worked on Robben Island and we had to just check their nests. And so we sprayed the numbers on their nests. But I handled one with the armband on, but my jeans came home white. So now that you told me it's white gold, I should have kept the jeans.
Yes,
and not
yes.
thrown it away.
No, exactly. And in some of these videos, you'll be able to see that the penguins are actually opening and closing their beaks, and they are panting. So when it gets really, really hot, they will actually try and regulate that heat by panting. And the chicks will try and get into the cooler layer of the sand. So you saw some chicks there that over there that they're kind of trying to find that cool layer. I think, as you know, when you go to the beach, that top layer is always really hot, but you just dig a little bit and you find that cool layer. So, when they are breeding on this open area, particularly at Foxy Beach, they are susceptible to the heat. And it's something that we are quite concerned about in terms of the future and more extreme heat conditions for the penguins. And, we really probably need to start thinking out of the box around, how we can, put more management in place for managing some of these heat issues. So we've had, out the box thought workshops where, we've spoken about shade cloths and sprinklers and all kinds of things. And it sounds quite extreme, but, because of the low numbers of these penguins, we really do have to start thinking out of the box to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect them.
I just want to say thank you from all of us for all the efforts and all the hard work that you put into protecting, I want to say these cool, excuse the pun, but amazing creatures.
Oh, thank you so much. But we wouldn't be able to do it without our conservation partners. We work incredibly closely with SANCOB, with BirdLife, with the City of Cape Town, with private individuals. There's a lot of people that care about the penguins, and yeah, we certainly wouldn't be able to do what we do without these partnerships and collaborations that we have.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Alison.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, from the whole team, we really appreciate this. Thank you for your input and for taking the time out for us today.
It's a great pleasure. And for those that didn't know, we have a webcam at Boulders, and I will post a link in the chat perhaps. And if you need a little bit of a calming moment, you can log into that webcam. And it is infrared, so you can even log in at night and see what the penguins are doing. They cannot see the light. It's really a low impact way of observing those penguins as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kock.
It's a pleasure.